the Around the NFL podcast. Still doesn't know if the Jeff Saturday era was real.
From the Chris Wessling podcast studio, it's Around the NFL. I am Dan Hanzus. I come to you from a room filled with heroes. Gregg Rosenthal, Marc Sessler, the flagship program, Week 5. Auga! I sure do love football.
Well, you better, because it's, on these Sundays with these London games, it's about 12 hours of football in a row. And I made a huge mistake because I got up, like a professional. I got up at 6:25 a.m.
Bro, who's a pro?
Right. Started watching that game at 6:30. Had a massive jug of coffee. Came in. I've been hanging out with Greg since 8:39.
Bad idea.
And I had 6 more cups of coffee today. I normally don't drink more than 1 in a day.
How much is in the jug?
The first one was a large mug.
So that's like 2.
2.5, I'd say, honestly.
So you've had 8.5 cups of coffee?
I lost count and realized at some point it's largely out of boredom a little bit.
Well, we'll let our listeners decide if it's a performance-enhancing drug or not. We'll be evaluating your performance closely.
Yeah.
Shaking.
Yeah. All right. We're going to keep an eye on you, Mark, and we're going to keep an eye out in Denver to make sure there's not so many tears that it leads to flooding in that great state of Colorado.
Oh, wow.
Private tears for Kevin James and company. But we'll get to that later. Big day of football. Let's start where we are heading in 48 hours.
Ooh.
To London.
2nd down and 8 from the 35-yard line of the Bills. The Bills are out of timeouts. They got none left. Under center.
8.5 cups.
They run it again with Etienne. He bursts out of there. 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown! Travis Etienne! That'll put a nail in this thing! Etienne scores! How good is that?
Very good. If you are a Jaguars fan, I like that Travis Etienne, who rushed for 136 yards and 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. And the Jaguars take out the Bills 25-20 at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in the second of 3 London games this month. We, like I said, will be at the Hot Toddy next Sunday for Titans-Ravens. But for right now, let's talk about an upset, Greggy. Let's start here. And the obvious note, we doomed the Bills with the triple lock. They played like a jet-lagged team that flew to Europe, fueled by irrational ATN confidence.
And one
hit us 3 in a row, gave it to us 1.
That's for Greg. That's for Dan.
And a 2. And the 1 more.
That's for this loser.
Yeah,
a trio of losers.
We heard from a lot of Jags fans. I just want to say thanks to you guys for following me on that lock. If I'm going to lose my first lock of the year, this is the way to do it.
I like how the way your brain works. Like we were following you.
Yes. I said it first, and then you guys jumped on.
As if, Greg. But you know what? As I said, I was okay with losing this because that would take. I'm Mercury Morris popping the champagne bottles because Greggy just took an L.
Well,
Auga.
That's not the way I look at it. But look, I should have known. You go against teams when it comes to the locks, and I wasn't really buying what the Jaguars had done this season to this point. But this performance on both sides of the ball was so complete and so special. But Trevor Lawrence was the one that was ultimately special. We could have, if we wanted, run the highlight of the key play of the game that was earlier in that drive, the game-winning drive, when it's 3rd and 4, and Trevor Lawrence checks to a play. It was confirmed by Calvin Ridley afterwards. It was going to be a running play. He saw that Calvin Ridley has single coverage on the outside. I believe it was with the safety, and he says, I'm taking that. I'm going to go hook up the guy that we signed for all this money, traded for all these picks, and go to him on the outside. And it beat an aggressive Sean McDermott who had to start sending extra rushers late in the game because of injuries. It was a perfect throw. It was a perfect catch. And I don't know if they really had that outside receiver a year ago at this time that can win that specific play in a beautiful play, and that's a game-winning play.
I mean, what we saw from Calvin Ridley in the opener, I thought if we're going to get this every week from him, this offense is totally transformed. And it's been quiet since then to some degree. Today, when they were up 11-0 and dominating Buffalo, who I'm with you. I feel like you can't just tag a team with jet lag, but they seemed like Stephon Diggs called Josh Allen sleepyhead after he.
Yeah, it wasn't joking because, as we know, the Jags were there for 2 weeks. And the Bills, I think, got there like 48 hours before the game.
And that makes a huge
big
difference.
Deal.
I think it's a factor. And it's like, I think all these teams are learning like how to deal with the London thing. And it was a massive advantage. And like the Bills, I think on top of it, came out complaining about the field. I mean, outside of the result, to lose Matt Milano, who is a core centerpiece of your defense,
that's a
looks
problem.
like he's out for the year. Daquan Jones, a PFF darling, they lost him. Von Miller didn't finish the game. He's like Leonard Floyd got banged up. Ed Oliver, Teron Johnson, Deion Dawkins. Like they really like this is one of those games where it's like you lost and you were averaging 40 points a game. Everything went wrong. Like what I liked about the Bills the last couple of weeks was the balance where they were running the ball so well. And they had 15 yards from the running back stage. Just sort of everything went wrong, and even they still had a chance to.
But I give the Jags credit for that. Like their run defense has been outstanding. That was the worst Bills rushing game since 2014. The entire McDermott era, that was worse. And they came into this game running the ball great.
And I'm glad you highlighted that pass to Ridley, which they hit with, what was it, about 3:09 to go in the fourth quarter. That was the play you're referring to. And it was a perfect throw with pressure and Ridley making the big play. That's why they brought him in here. And I think the throw is also kind of emblematic of, in general, Trevor Lawrence, and I know like PFF, for instance, had him as the number 2 QB, I believe it was.
Yeah, they do.
To this point, he had been playing well. It just the team hadn't really been playing well, and that was a throw that, in the box score, maybe just looks like a 25-yard pass or whatever. But that's like that is what Trevor Lawrence is capable of. I think this guy has huge moments in his career ahead of him, and big games in January, and we're just starting to scratch the surface. So it's like, as flat as the Jaguars have felt, this game was the one that was like, okay, you picked up the one win last week in London. That was fine. You win this game, it's like it kind of serves as a reminder they should be taken seriously in an AFC that, again, Greggy, feels just so wide open right now where we stand that why can't the Jags get hot and figure some things out, and with Lawrence at the controls, be a team that can get out of there?
I always try to I think September is relatively irrelevant. That's a terrible quote.
They do count.
I mean, the games count the same, but you want to be rounding into form. Right now, the Jaguars feel better than they have all season. Like, there are certain things that have been frustrating. Lawrence going through his progressions too quickly and taking the check down. Today, they were throwing deeper down the field throughout, like plus 10 throws from the very beginning. So it wasn't just the check downs today. I thought that was better. Like, okay, our offensive line might not be great, but let's let Trevor Lawrence do what he does best, which is avoid sacks, which he did today so many times. And I do think McDermott's changed who they are in Buffalo a little bit because of the injuries and because he's different than Leslie Frazier in sending lots of pressure. And for the most part, the pressure got there and Lawrence just made the miss. And I think he's going to have to start thinking about changing who he is in terms of what he tells Ken Dorsey to do on fourth downs, because there were twice in this game early where they had a 4th and 1 and a 4th and 3. They didn't go for either one. And I don't know, with these injuries, and I know one of them was on their side of the field, and so it's hard to ask, but this is such a good offense. I feel like you should do it.
The Milano injury that you referred to already, that's
just rough for them.
To quote Damashek, he's the Jenga piece of their defense, and if this is it, the way he was carted off, and I don't know what the reporting out there is right now, but if he had like what NFL Network described with Rich Eisen on the call, that he had the air cast on it as they took him off the field, that's never a sign.
He has been diagnosed with a fractured leg. So
brutal loss. So that is a huge challenge now for Sean McDermott, because I think this defense, we were talking about it going into this game, this is rounding up as the most well-rounded Bills team in some time, and now it's like, are they going to be the best? I don't think they can't be as good. If you take Tre'Davious White out of this mix, and now you take Matt Milano out of the mix, that's two major pieces of what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is trying to find the team that can survive injuries or stay relatively healthy. And I know we say that. I feel like, Greg, we've talked about this like every Sunday. It's like, are there just more injuries than normal this year? And it's like, probably statistically not. But it's like the Bills were ravaged today, totally taken up. I think AJ Epinesa had a great game with a lot of these guys out,
right?
Stuff like that. They do have
ran out of gas.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's
that was bad too.
I don't know. I will say one thing. Like, I know we're kind of been hot and cold on Travis Etienne. I thought he looked great today.
184 yards from scrimmage. He's Mr. London. He had 114 You got to give Urban Meyer his props. That draft class he had was pretty good.
Well, is it his draft class?
I'm just saying, their draft class since Urban Meyer haven't really been too good, but that one worked out.
Yes. Anything else to hit on this game?
I think they should just stay in London.
Well, listen, I'm not taking anything away from the Jags. They put so much into growing their brand in London, and that was a Bills crowd. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's probably a little bit of humble pie for Jags ownership that really has invested in being the team there. But what we've learned and what we've seen, and we're going to see it again next week when we're there, is that these games become a celebration for everyone to rep their favorite players and their favorite teams. But Bills Mafia either traveled incredibly well, and I was part of it, or maybe this Jaguars foothold isn't necessarily what you think it is.
They were pretty loud for the Jags, though, too. It's one of those, like,
they're just having a good time there.
Right.
There could be a massive amount of UK-based bandwagon fans that jumped on the Bills bandwagon, too.
Yes, as Hank said to us, handsome Hank, Henry Hodgson, vice president out there, that the Patriots were like the most popular team there the last 20 years, and that's probably going to fade away now, and we'll get to
it's going to fade away real fast
later, so we'll see what happens. But that crowd is red hot there, the hot toddy. They were singing, they were doing Oasis karaoke.
Yeah.
Save that energy for when Zeuser gets there.
Yeah, I
need that.
I heard that driving in, and I was like, if they don't repeat that simply for you alone.
Sweet Caroline, I understand that's becoming a tradition for the London fans, and that was a goosebumps moment. But what I need is a little "Don't Look Back in Anger."
I don't know. I feel like Sweet Caroline is our most embarrassing export right now. Let's be better, America.
Damn, bro.
It's got competition.
Aren't you from the Boston area?
Like a lot of Red Sox fans, I've always hated the Sweet Caroline thing.
Oh, Greggy. Greggy.
Come on.
The New England fans, they're in trouble.
What's he doing?
All right, let's move on. Head back to our shores and to Pittsburgh, where, oh my God, this is one of the craziest games I've ever watched.
Steelers down 2. Trying to get into at least field goal range. Here's a shotgun snap, blitz. He's back, he throws it down the near sideline. Pickens has it! Pittsburgh Steelers touchdown! Pickett to Pickens, 41 yards, and you have to be here.
It's a go route and go he did. That's as sweet as my Aunt Nellie's blueberry pie, baby.
Oh. Put that, Eric, into the folder of best calls of the year. Who? Aunt Millie's blueberry pie?
I'd have to go check that again, but I believe it was Aunt Millie.
Okay, please do.
I will.
Bill Hillgrove, and that was Craig Wolfley, I believe, with the call, WDVE. The Steelers had no business even having an opportunity to take the lead in the fourth quarter on Sunday at the field formerly known as Heinz. But the Ravens made 34,000 mental and physical errors. And that's an exact figure. I was tracking it.
Yeah.
Right on the dot.
Yeah, rounded there. And Kenny Pickett delivered that 41-yard rainbow to George Pickens with 1:17 to go. Allowed the Steelers to rally to a crazy 17-10 win. And the reason I say they had no business, boys, is this was one of the worst performances by a group of skilled players around a quarterback that you will ever see. Lamar Jackson, time and time again throughout this game, and he's not completely innocent because he had a horrific interception in the final minutes that played a role in how things ended.
Big role.
But he threw not one, not two, but 3 balls that absolutely should have been touchdowns. All of them dropped. We also had a fumble near midfield. I mentioned Jackson had a interception of his own. And all these physical errors allowed a Pittsburgh team that looked horrific for especially the offense, I should say. But the defense wasn't any great shakes either. They were getting bailed out by Ravens errors. Allowed them to hang around. And every time you just felt like the game was over, Gunnar Olszewski,
Yeah.
he muffed a punt in the final minutes. And it's like, all right, after all that madness, Pittsburgh had just, they're not going to do it. That's when Jackson throws the pick. And that leads to the big touchdown. Finally, Pickett to Pickens. And by the way, Matt Canada, that's a great play call because you could have played that conservative, but they surprised the Ravens and beat them with the big throw. So it's a crazy game, Mark, because the Ravens had no business losing it, and it's going to be something. Their fans, Ravens fans, will never forget this loss because it was that bad.
And it came against your hated rival in a very kind of Ravensy, Steelersy type bizarro affair. This was a weird stat that John Harbaugh. There are 4 occasions where John Harbaugh has held the Steelers to 3 points through 3 quarters. They are 0-4 under John Harbaugh in those games. A lot has to happen for that to unfurl the way it did today. And it came just in time for Pittsburgh in terms of like when they finally got that pass to George Pickens, who I thought was sort of an edging on the world of becoming a true star. And he's had a bit of a tough season in that offense. He's 0 for 8 on contested catches coming into this game.
Not anymore.
Turn that around today. And
2 for 2 on the game-winning drive.
Yeah, so that's who he is. But it's like, I mean, I feel like we were 3 quarters into this, and it's like, were they going to fire Matt Canada at halftime? And it's like, this guy seemed presumably just out the door. And you get what you did. Joey Porter Jr. makes a big play. It's like, I really always loved that draft pick. And Alex Highsmith had a big play. I didn't think they thought maybe he wouldn't even play today. And he had that big strip sack. So I don't know. If you're Baltimore, I'm with you. Like, this is a tough one to swallow.
I didn't even mention the block punt that was nearly picked up for a touchdown, but went for a safety.
Right.
John Harbaugh, and we'll hear for John Harbaugh in 1 second. John Harbaugh also passed on a 41-yard field goal for Justin Tucker. That would have been some not just stat padding. It would have given them just a little more breathing room. And yet, almost stubbornly, it was like he was so confident that the Pittsburgh Steelers would never put anything together that he thought he could get that first down. And they don't get the first down. And you leave points on the board. Harbaugh, after the game, said he was not surprised by the drop passes. They'll catch him next time.
We just got to get better operational things and clean stuff up and make those plays. I think we're that close in so many ways, but that's the difference in a game on the road like this, in this kind of a rivalry game. So we'll learn from it. We have to, and get better and move forward and be better next week in those areas.
It's like people talked about this as potentially the best division in football, and I see major questions marks with every one of them.
Well, the Ravens, though, should be 5-0. So if you had asked me going into today who had the worst loss of the season, the game in which they had the most opportunities to win and they absolutely blew it time after time, I would have immediately said Ravens-Colts week 3.
Yeah.
That was the worst loss of the season to me. They had about 15 different times in that game where if they just made one play or didn't do something stupid, they would have won that game, and they lost that game, and then they lost this one. And I don't think that's something that's like analytically going to continue season after season, but I do think you have personalities within a season, and the fact that they have messed that up and that John Harbaugh coaches up one of the worst special teams units I've ever seen. I mean, it has Justin Tucker on it, and Tucker has been fine. But other than that, their special teams has cost them literally every single game. They went into this week 29th in DVOA in terms of special teams, despite having Tucker. And week after week, that's been a huge problem for them, and they do it again.
Well, and even in that Colts game, and this is not on Justin Tucker, he's superhuman, but to have him miss that 61-yard field goal, it fell just feet short. That was the difference in that game.
Right, but even, the punt block was huge, and it stinks because Lamar has played. It sounds like he played well, but he also turned the ball over there 2 times with a chance to win, and he will feel like he should have done.
Is
better.
Odell Beckham still a difference maker on any level?
No.
Was he just faded into the woodwork here?
He was a difference maker for a few weeks, like 3 years ago, 2 years
Well,
ago.
yeah.
But for the most part, he is who he is. He's hurt all the time. He left this game after missing a couple weeks. But, like...
That Pickens catch, by the way, before the game winner was special. And that was like an Odell Beckham type of catch. And that is like someone putting the team on his back as a receiver and making 2 plays that not too many people would.
And listen, Pittsburgh's 3-2. I don't really, of course Baltimore could be 5-0, but they're not. They're 3-2. Pittsburgh, they could be 0-5. Like, Pittsburgh has been, well, I don't know. I don't know about 0-5, but they could easily be 1-4. Like, they are a team that has still major issues on offense. And I didn't get into it, but I was catching a little bit of heat from Steelers fans on Twitter because I had the.
I'm surprised they can spell.
Yeah. This is your team. This is your 12-win team.
We're a quarter of the way
gall.
there.
I had the gall to
just
reference the offensive struggles, but not pin it directly on Matt Canada. And that fan base is so zeroed in on Canada that every time in that stadium they ran the ball on first down, the boos came running down. And then that's part of what their frustration is, that there's a predictable nature to the offense. So it doesn't cure everything. Again, just like they made, like the Cleveland game comes to mind. Like, you came out of that game not feeling great about Cleveland, at least not on offense, but they made enough plays to get by. Same thing happened here. Pittsburgh is by no means fixed on offense, but the defense makes big plays, and there is potential there if they could just clean things up themselves. But, man, Baltimore won this more than Pittsburgh won it.
You are 2-0 in your division
Boston.
if you're Pittsburgh. I don't buy into the future journey, but that's not the worst.
And Mike Tomlin's kind of owned this rivalry. I think it's 6 of 7 right now. 6 of 7 or 7 of 8.
All right. I called it, what was it? The Battle of the Golden Retriever versus the German Shepherd. Chiefs, Vikings from Minneapolis. I thought it would be close. It was pretty close. Let's head to Minnesota.
27-20 Kansas City. 5 seconds to go in the game. The Vikings have the ball at the Kansas City 38-yard line. Chiefs have 4 guys. DB's back along with Kelsey. Cousins trying to be harassed. Stepping up, he's sacked! And that will be that! A sack of groceries to take home! It's a grab and go! Isles online! Take
happened?
it and run with it! A sack by Mike Dana to end the game! And the Kansas City Chiefs have their first win in the Twin Cities since 1996! And Patrick Mahomes gets a victory here. The last team he has not beaten.
Good little
you
nugget.
know. Yeah.
Little nugget.
Good nug.
Already. That's fast.
Midge Holtis, who had a bunch of crazy stuff in that call there. Chiefs radio. Yes, Patrick Mahomes threw 2 touchdown passes. Travis Kelce, a real injury scare, an ankle injury in the first half, but he came back, and, of course, he scored a touchdown. And the Chiefs get that stop that they needed at the end to take home a 27-20 win over the Vikings, who fall to 1-4. And yes, this was a game, guys, where again you're seeing the Chiefs. It doesn't come easy for the Chiefs on offense right now. And if Kelsey is going to be less than 100%, and quite frankly, despite all the Taylor Swift drama and the excitement around Kelsey, he hasn't had a big time Kelsey year this year. He seems to be, he missed week 1. And I don't want to say he's been a step slow, but he's definitely been kind of banged up along the way, and it happened again here. So if you don't have Kelsey playing at peak form, I think that's what the difference between last year and this year is. And you could say Bieniemy's gone too, but, Andy's calling the plays here, is that they were able to paper over any deficiencies in terms of their skill group because Kelsey was playing at an all-world level. When he's coming down a little bit here, then you're putting Mahomes in a more difficult situation. So that said, you take care of business in this game. This was a game that Vikings really needed to win, and yet Kansas City, as they often do, they found a way.
I think it was unintentional on that call by Mitch Holtis that he said Kirk Cousins trying to be harassed.
Right.
But that kind of was how that play played out. That Kirk Cousins went back there and almost started looking for the pressure, not looking to go down, but as if like he's expecting that pressure to get there, and to not throw the ball up is just such a frustrating Kirk Cousins way to end that game.
Yeah, I mean, they're now 1-4 in one-score games. We know that they're heading in that direction, but this was an odd one from a distance because like both teams had only 8 drives, and I know the Chiefs have been. I think they're missing obviously like a chess piece, a mismatch type guy that you can pair with Kelsey. He wasn't there in week 1, Kelsey. You missed him for part of today. He's banged up. And it's like, who do you turn to? And like, yet what I do like about them and why I trust them and that they'll work their way out of this is like, you have a 9-play touchdown drive. You have a 12-play field goal drive. You've got another 10-play field goal drive, and then 2-pair twin 11-play touchdown drive. So it's not perfect, and there's something about them that's like they're a bit of a frustrating watch at times. But I trust them to work the way out of it, and they're still moving the ball. And like I think if anything that stood out to me in this game was when you're the Vikings and you're trying to win these tight games, because it seems like every week you're in them, you can't blow your third timeout with like 9 minutes to go.
9 minutes to go.
And I'm not like a time person, a timeout person. That doesn't stick in my head too often, but it's like
9.
That was mismanagement.
9 minutes to go. You call your third timeout in a game where you're scrambling on the last possession. So, I would have to.
Where you take a delay a game penalty to turn a 4th and 7 with the game on the line to a 4th and 12. Like, and I'm not saying that they needed their timeout there. That would have been a waste of it there too. It's just like the operation was struggling.
Yeah, and that's Kevin O'Connell and Kirk Cousins. They had to wear that. Yes, and going back to Kelsey, it was pretty frightening because there was a world where, as I was coming into the office after the end of the second quarter, I was like, did Travis Kelsey just blow his Achilles?
Right.
It was a
It
bad
looked bad,
step,
yeah.
the way it turned, and then he slams the helmet down when he gets to the sideline, but he returned, and X-rays came back negative, and obviously they seem to dodge a major bullet, but they're not in the clear, Greggy. There seems like there's something they need on offense to click in here. Somebody has to step into a role. Maybe it's Rice who had a score today, but they're able to get through things, even though they're not the Chiefs that we know.
Maybe it's someone on the trade market at some point. If there was a team that
Mecole Hardman, maybe.
I don't think they want Mecole back.
Jerry Jeudy?
Because these close games, we've talked all season about the regression for the Vikings. You know who won their last 6 games last year by 1 score, including all 3 in the playoffs, the Kansas City Chiefs, and then 3 out of 4 this year in 1-score games. But to be able to win in different types of ways is still extremely impressive to me because they're a defensive team. They can run the ball when they needed to. But the whole idea of you can't blitz Patrick Mahomes anymore. Brian Flores, I think, blitzed him more than any team has in 3 or 4 years. And, they only ended up with 333 yards, 5.2. I mean, I know they got it done, but they weren't killing him like you would previously when you blitzed.
No, I do think the Vikings defense has shown improvement. This scheme works for them, and it's like they're missing parts, though.
Not enough, though, because 4 of 5. Who?
Oh, yeah, the West Bros.
Yeah.
Oh,
come on.
Dude.
I don't know all the brothers. You could say some of the brothers picked.
The Cincinnati Zoo. I was busy, prepping for the show, but apparently there's a all-out war in the text thread between
yes.
Westling brothers after a lock.
I checked that after work. I know, Greg, what's going on?
Well,
It seemed
Phil-
very fiery. So.
I mean, they just picked up a game on everyone in the standings after our bozo lock of Buffalo.
Yeah,
How are they fighting?
I'm now dead last.
Phil sends out, that Mackey's on a roll. His son, and Nick is not pleased even that Phil's
Man, Nick,
progeny, and he says, quote, the Rosenthal approach is working, which I don't know what that is. Winning?
Winning.
Nick says, the Nick approach is ratings gold, and that it's embarrassing. I don't know.
Get them back in the cages. By the way,
I've been beaten by a youth and now sit in last place.
it happens, Mark. A lot of season left. For the record, Marcus, I know you asked about this. You were all over this.
What?
Jim Nantz has an update on what everybody wanted to know.
Oh, sure.
Does this romance between Kelsey and Taylor Swift extend to Minneapolis in the fall? Listen in, Jim Nantz.
Welcome back to U.S. Bank Stadium here in Minneapolis. In case you're wondering, 7 words I thought would never leave my lips in my career. What are they? Taylor Swift is not at the game.
That's a first for you.
I've never said that before. There's some broken-hearted people I just saw in the stands.
Yeah.
She was questionable all week, but it looks like it's officially inactive for today.
See what you did there. I see what you did there.
There were like literally people consoling each other there. With Swifties on the back of their jersey.
There was a girl there. It just looked like she was in her 20s that had a Taylor Swift Vikings jersey. Did that young woman spend like $100?
Yeah.
To wear a jersey
More.
to that game on the off chance that Taylor Swift would be sitting like 300 feet up in a luxury
Yes,
suite?
I don't understand.
Is that what's happening
yeah,
here?
because there's no other scenario she would have bought that jersey, weeks ago or a month ago.
She is the Pied Piper of
I think
America.
the NFL is absolutely in love with the whole situation.
The only thing worse than silence after a joke, though, that Jim Nantz makes is Tony Romo's fake laugh. Like, that's actually worse. Silence would be better.
Romo was not listening. There's no chance. Definitely should mention Justin Jefferson, who got banged up in this game as well. He had a hamstring tweak. We're not sure about the severity of it, but obviously that would be very bad news.
Kevin O'Connell didn't
the
sound
Vikings.
overly optimistic. Said he didn't know, but he also said, we believe our offense will be in good shape whenever JJ gets back. So I was like, that doesn't sound great.
It looked,
We'll see.
I mean, it just looked like, that's going to be lingering on his body for months.
I like watching the Vikings, but not if Justin Jefferson ain't home. All right, let us head to the desert where the Cardinals drew another tough opponent. But are the Bengals a tough opponent right now? Well, let's see what happened today.
2nd and goal from the 3. Burrow in the gun. He catches at the 8. He fakes to Mixon. Now rolling to the right. Backpedaling to the 13. Throws. Caught.
Oof.
Jamar Chase on the back line of the end zone with his 3rd touchdown catch as he sets a new Bengals record with his 14th catch of the game.
Unbelievable.
He's like, DJ Moore, I got you.
Okay.
Uh-oh, AFC. Joe Burrow might be back. The quarterback threw for 317 yards and 3 touchdown passes, all to, yes, Jamar Chase, matching what DJ Moore did on Thursday Night Football. See? That's how it tied together. And he finished with a season-high 100. Did you see that?
That is a professional lever pull by you, Dan.
He finished with a season-high 190, $192 receiving.
That didn't match DJ Moore, though, to be fair.
No, but, in terms of like catches, he eclipsed him. And then he matched touchdowns. In the game, it's about scoring. So
Really digging in on this angle.
well,
Fantasy
I was
points.
challenged.
Yeah, okay.
And the Bengals beat the Cardinals 34-20. Let's now welcome in a man who I'm sure watches like the rest of us with trepidation. Which version of Joe Burrow showed up, and it obviously was a far more productive version, Mr. Shook. How do he look to you?
Almost 100%. He was about as close as it gets to 100% for a guy who was lingering at about 50% through the first month of the season. It felt like I watched Joe Burrow go into some healing cryogenic chamber from some sci-fi movie and stepped out and was like, I'm back, and I'm here to destroy the Cardinals.
Maybe he borrowed Mr. Johnson & Johnson's cryo chamber in Malibu. You never know.
Yeah, or wherever they froze Ted Williams. Yeah, that.
Arizona. Yeah, it is in Arizona.
That is the right state,
Uh-oh.
so that's how he played. It definitely
Yikes.
proved it. Joe Burrow was fantastic, guys. He was great.
This is the most, I was watching this pretty closely. It's like the most hopeful thing that happened all day today, league-wide, because it's like,
Well, Sean Payton lost today. So
all right, well, there's that coming from, depending on your POV, but it's like we were watching a player that simply couldn't function. And it's like, I don't know what happened over the last week. I mean, I do. His body, healed. I guess that's from a bird's eye view. That's what happened. But like, it happened suddenly, quickly. And like Jamar Chase, who was lost in space for the whole first part of this season, what happens to him is insane. And it's like, we can believe in this team again in a really weird AFC. I kind of feel like this was one of the bigger turning points we've seen in the first month.
I believe Jamar Chase after the game tweeted 7-11, always open, because he was always open in this game. Yeah, it was remarkable, Mark. You're absolutely right. I mean, it was a game where you went in and thought, well, if Joe Burrow is still what he's been for the last month, the Cardinals will have a chance because they play with their hair on fire in every game and they're a little sloppy and sometimes they come away with victories and other times they make it interesting. Well, they made this one interesting, but they just didn't have enough to keep up with the newly reimagined Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase out to set records and give multiple touchdown passes.
Why are you talking like that?
Football.
I love it.
I like it.
I enjoy it. He's fired up.
Continue to talk like that. I thought it was very telling after the game. Joe Burrow said that this felt like their game a year ago against New Orleans, I believe was the example. A game that I don't think did they win that? They won that game in New Orleans. And that was a bit of a turning point where they started the season slow and it was the slugfest back and forth. And I also looked at those touchdowns and I didn't watch this game closely, but I saw enough to see those two plays were out of the pocket. They were not first reaction plays. They were second reaction plays, creative, him moving. And that just like those plays were not available the last few weeks. That makes a pretty big difference.
That was the key to me. That was the big difference, was that he was navigating the pocket. He was rolling out. He was even scrambling a little bit for some positive gains. I felt like I had gone in a time machine back to last year. Maybe it was New Orleans. Maybe it was another game. He was back to his old self. Now, I'm not going to say he's 100% yet because we haven't quite seen that, but he's really close to it. He's so much further along than he was before. And like Dan said, better watch out, AFC, because if this is the Bengals, even without T. Higgins, if Joe Burrow's back like this, they are a force in this conference again, not just the division, but this conference. And that whole month where they were not good, well, y'all took that for granted.
Yeah, because he's Burrow, and when he's healthy, they're going to be good. Here's the quote from him about he's admitting, Joe Burrow, that what he wasn't and what he was today, about his mobility, moving out of the pocket. It's something I haven't been able to do the last couple of weeks. When the quarterback can't do that, can't steal first downs, can't extend plays to find guys, it's tough to move the ball. It felt good today. It does beg the question, when he was acknowledging he couldn't do any of those things, should he have been playing. But there's also this like the magic of Burrow and why I think he's one of the more dynamic talents that's entered the league in a long time is that he does have that kind of that magic to him. And when they needed to gut out that win when they were 0-2 and avoid an 0-3 start, he got that. And now after an ugly game last week, backs against the wall again, he finds a way. And I don't know what cryo chamber he was in or if it's just time has allowed the cat to get healthier. Certainly he's not out of the woods because he's already had one significant setback. But like it's just the magic of this guy and how special he is. And it's why if this is going to be a situation where he's going to continue to build on this, like they are going to be a house on fire down the stretch, just like they were last year.
Yeah, so far, I mean, their defense is playing well. Their defense is what's kept them in most of the games that they've been close in. That's what won them the Rams game. Joe Mixon looked good. Just overall as a unit, they look solid. And if they get the momentum going here, then, everybody better watch it out.
The Cardinals they're hyper frisky, and I think that's like they're enjoyable to watch, in my opinion. They had a really big goal line stand on Joe Mixon when they were only down 14-10, and you thought at that point, like, are they going to do what they've been doing week after week? And then Josh Dobbs, who's been pretty good this season.
That's right. They were up 14-10 at that point.
Up 14-10, and then like he throws the pick six, and like you kind of feel the tide turning at that point. And it's like that's a team that can't make that key mistake. I mean, but I will say that like they seem well coached to me. They're buying into it. Like this Dennis Gardeck guy is like out there kicking people's butts. I kind of just like him.
We know.
Yeah, the buy-in is definitely there, but I think it's more of a team that's just
the
like
eighth cup of coffee talking.
They did, but I don't. You know what? Like they lost James Conner,
and the defense has
stunk.
That's the problem. The defense has stunk.
Yeah.
The schedule has been brutal, so that's part of it. But it's a bottom 5 defense in every possible category. And they got to be feeling like they got a little unlucky here.
And they're 1-4, and they've been outscored 69-36 the last 2.
No, I know.
I just want to like.
No. I'm not saying like, hey, everyone go buy tickets to the game. But it's like they've got a bunch of draft picks, and like I think there's effort there.
I think what's gone is the thought that they're the bottom of the league. They could be a little bit frisky, strong. They could be feisty.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Frisky's not the word.
That's fine. But I think the story here is Joe Burrow and the Bengals and.
No, I think it's no, I'm kidding.
I think, if we Shook, I just want to, and they didn't have Higgins in this game, correct?
Correct. He did not play.
So, they weren't even at full strength. So their ability to put up points, that's a good sign. Anything else, Nick?
No, I mean, if the Bengals are like this for a while, the next month, then they're going to be in the conversation. The Cardinals are fun to watch, though. They're a fun watch.
They're one game back,
4,
the Bengals. Right? I mean, after all this, they're one game back in their division.
In a division that we've said is maybe not as ironclad as we thought it was.
I believe more in them
August.
than any other team in the AFC North right now.
Gosh, the Ravens are dumb. That was dumb.
So bad. All right.
Idiots.
Shooky, a one and done for you today. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday night.
This is what we call a cameo. So long, fellas.
Yeah, rest up because we're going to need you big time next week. It's going to be a lot of Shooky.
Heavy lifting.
All that grunting, that's pumping. I'm preparing for it.
Yeah,
yes, sir. All right, let's take a break. And when we get back, we dive back into week 5.
It's disturbing.
All right. Oh, that's my favorite part of the show. It's time now for the Sunday Drive presented by the first ever Toyota Grand Highlander. Do you like going on a Sunday drive, Mark?
I mean, I drive to work and then I'm here for 14 hours.
Let's say in the off season.
Of course I do. It depends to where, but yeah, of course I'd like to. And
feels like a quaint mid 20th century thing to just go for a Sunday drive.
Well, I think back then it was like you're one of the rare people that own a car. It's a big deal. Now it's like
what was the mid 20th century like?
How would I know that?
You got a big birthday coming up, buddy. This week.
I'm not turning 80.
I'm just saying it's a big one.
Yeah, I'm trying not to focus on that, but you're right.
All right, let's get to it. Across the sidewalk we go.
Rams have to get to the Eagles' 44 for a first down. Can the Eagles stop them and in all practicality end the game? Stafford again in the gun.
Practicality.
Stafford calling for the football. Stafford takes the snap. He's back. Here comes the rush again. They hit him.
He goes.
They hit him. Down he goes. It is Hassan Reddick again.
Oh, Hassan Reddick. You dirty dog. Merrill Reese with the call. The big takedown of Matt Stafford. put to bed any thoughts the Rams could shock the defending conference champions, and they score that road win, 23-14 over the Rams. Another frisky team this year, but this is the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts threw for 303 yards and a touchdown. He rushed for 72 and another score. And a take care of business effort here by Philly.
I love this game by the Eagles. I love this team. They're so good. I thought it was so fitting watching that replay, seeing Nick Sirianni sprint down the field to go congratulate Hassan Reddick, because Reddick's been in the crosshairs of like, why isn't Hassan Reddick getting anything done? And all week Sirianni's saying he's getting close. It's going to happen. And then he gets back-to-back sacks on those plays. You know what else Sirianni was talking about all week? He said,
what?
Don't worry. Dallas Goedert is going to be part of this offense. He had under 90 yards on the season going into this game. What happens here? They feature him early. He's busting open those zones in the Rams coverage. 8 for 117 and 1. Most teams go into games and they're just like, how do we find a way to win? Like the Eagles are like, how do we start pumping up the stars that we have that haven't quite gotten their taste lately? I bet it'll be Devonta Smith next week because he's been quiet and they were talking to him on the sideline. I also think they get into these games and they kind of just feel it out and they figure out, what do we need in this game? And in this game, in the second half, they clamped down and they really dominated with long drives on offense and a lot of pressure on defense and made the Rams offense in the second half look as bad as it's looked all year.
One thing about them, because, it was like the narrative, like what's wrong with their passing game? Where's the explosive plays? And so they use the ground game to destroy people. And like in this game, midway through the third quarter, they had 11 yards on the ground by running backs. And you're seeing Dallas Goedert explode out of nowhere. And I'm with you. There's the versatility and like A.J. Brown, who is largely unstoppable. The Rams hung around in this, but it's the Eagles who just like have so many ways to attack that it almost is like you're happily picking on the opponent with whatever player you want to choose. And it's like this week it's a different cast of characters. And last week we saw Hurts on the ground a bunch more. I don't know. I don't have a lot of questions about the Eagles.
Yeah, it seems unfair because they have so much talent and they're just so well coached. Jalen Carter had 2 more sacks. It's the same building where he won the national title in January, and it could have been 23 is not an overwhelming offensive score, but they had drives that lasted 17 plays, 15 plays, 10 plays that led to 9 points, 3 field goals. So Greggy, a little better execution there, and this game is maybe a 40 burger or whatever. But again, with the Eagles, and this is what I was trying to say, I guess last week, that like their problems are like the rich people problems, people that live up on the hill behind the gates. You need an intercom to get into the neighborhood is the type of problems we're dealing with.
Yeah, their problem is like suddenly Jason Kelsey's exploding on the sideline because it's a fight that they're very productive, but he's upset about I guess
calls coming in.
He just did that for his podcast. That was 50% chance he just did that for them to have something to talk about.
I don't doubt that at this point. But I do think he cares about the Sunday job.
Like the Jags, I think their best 2 weeks of the season though are their last 2, so they're getting better as they go. And Jalen Hurts, that whole discussion, and I was saying it too, that he was struggling relatively inside the pocket. That's over too, because he has played beautifully these last 2 weeks. He's played as well as any quarterback in the league the last 2 weeks. And they actually did make a point today to send him on some design runs early, and it was very key early that he was picking up first downs with the legs, and those Jalen Carter sacks are just so fast, and they killed the Rams in the second half. They had 5 possessions. They had under 100 yards. They were just punting, like turning it over on downs and quick drives. I haven't seen the Rams offense look that bad in the second half. First half, they looked like they always looked, and Cooper Kupp did return to this game.
How did he look?
He looked like Cooper Kupp. 8 for 118. I think he had almost 60 yards on 5 catches in the first drive alone.
It looked like he was going to finish with like 18 catches.
Right, and I don't think he ran out of gas because he made some plays late. I don't know if Stafford's injury affected him because he had some great throws in this game, but he did miss 4 or 5 that I haven't seen him miss this year that were throws that were there. And so that's something to watch. But Puka Nacua still is the man, 7 for 71 and 1. I don't feel any different.
The targets there on Puka.
Yeah, like he's not gonna
still got 11. Him and Kupp dominated with 23 of the targets. I think Tutu is not going to get as much shine anymore.
It was nice while it lasted. Anything else on this game, Greggy?
No, I just like how fired up though Sean McVay is afterwards. Like he really believes in this team. He's saying like we're not going down. Like I think it's a frisky team. They're not ready. Not many teams are going to be ready for this Eagles team.
No. Eagles get the Jets next week. They're 5-0. All right, let us head to A-Town. That's Atlanta. Like if you're like plugged in.
Pena will hold, McCullough will snap. He makes it Atlanta's 3-2. Snap, spot, flag down, kick is away. It is perfect.
Yeah, and you got a flag. They
don't mess with my highlight with flags.
I think the Houston Texans were offside.
Stupid.
There were 2 fouls on the play, both by the defense. Offside.
You mess with my highlight.
Running into the kicker,
what?
Also number 25. This penalty is also declined. The field goal is good. Yeah. The game is over.
Yeah, I guess
drive home.
They don't need it.
Okay. I like when they say the game is over. That always feels good.
I think the ref likes to vamp there a little bit with that.
Giving us all this info. How about just come on and be like, both against Atlanta, both against Houston, game over.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
We don't need it.
No, I'm with you.
Put it in the NFL Jesus. Put it in the box score, the official box score.
Right.
That data, those data points. Let the celebration begin. God damn it.
It's a fair argument.
West Durham with a call. WZGC. Good call. Desmond Ridder passed and ran for touchdowns. A big ol' FU to all the bozos calling for his benching. And Younghoe Koo kicked a 37-yard field goal as time expired. Falcons snap a 2-game losing streak. They beat the upstart Texans 21-19. Gregg Rosenthal, he needed this game, as did Arthur Smith, a head coach that was facing mounting criticism for sticking with his QB1.
Yeah, great Desmond Ridder game. It should go without saying this is the best game of Desmond Ridder's career.
Like legitimately great. I haven't seen it.
For him. Yeah. I mean, he went for 329 and a touchdown. I think the receivers made plays for him, but he didn't make any bad decisions. There weren't any groaners that he got away with. They were the better team. They had 447 yards of offense. I mean, this was the vision. This was Arthur Smith's vision. Ridder, like, distributing, not messing it up. Kyle Pitts making some nice catches, leading the team in receiving. Kyle Pitts, 7 for 87. Drake London making...
Wait, am I hallucinating right now?
Yes, this happened.
What you've been asking for.
Drake London making a contested catch that was one of the best catches I've seen this season, 32 yards, while his helmet was being ripped off at a very key moment of the game. Bijan making people
Bijan got more carries than Algier, right?
No, well, that
okay.
didn't
We're not
happen.
all the way there
But
yet.
he did get a receiving touchdown.
Are we gonna give up that dream yet? Can we please stop that, Arthur?
He did though make a one-handed catch on a touchdown where it appears
crazy.
Where he faked it behind the back or something. So that was the vision, plus a defense that is much more together and complete than it was a year ago, and they get a win over a team that's maybe a year behind them in terms of their development.
I think it's interesting is like when we preview this, and I think when everyone looked at it, it's like, oh, well, by many metrics, Houston is the worst run defense in the league, and Atlanta wants to go pound the ball against you and probably run the ball. They did for 36 times for 2.7 yards per carry. So it's like they needed Ridder to make these plays, and I find them unpredictable because it's like I don't think having Desmond Ridder in general throw the ball 37 times is a great concept. You get today, that helps, but it's like it feels like not hit like Arthur Smith's vision in a way.
Well, I guess,
almost go against what he doesn't seem to want to give Kyle Pitts and Drake London like huge amounts of targets. And today
I think teams are just loading up to stop them so much that it's forcing their hand. And today he actually delivered, but it wasn't even great. Like I'm thinking of a lot of these catches. And they're great. They're nice catches. He doesn't like put it right on you. Like Pitts had a nice jumping catch. London, Jonnu Smith is back alive. But that's what they're going to need to make this thing work.
Take me through the end of this game because I was more just seeing it in the scroll, and Houston has the lead late here. How does it all play out down the stretch? Is this was this a dramatic comeback drive or
right.
How did it play out?
Well, first of all, Houston didn't have a touchdown until 2 minutes left in the game. But it was 12-7 entering the fourth quarter, and Atlanta just kept going on these drive after drive, and they lost 2 fumbles. They managed to win this game despite having 2 turnovers. Neither was Ridder. And they go on these long field goal drives, and then C.J. Stroud, my guy. It's not my guy. It's everyone's guy. Everyone's enjoying watching him play.
America's
gets the ball, It's down 6 with 7 minutes to go and just coolly goes down the field, making the right reads. They get the running game going. He gets the touchdown to go up, setting up Ritter with about 1:49 to go. They need a field goal. And they made it look easy. Like, they had too much. Like, they got in field goal position with about 45 seconds to go. Ritter makes a couple nice throws to pretty open receivers. Houston's defense was not impressive in this game, but you got to give Ritter and the play callers credit. And some of these were Ritter runs, too, on that last drive where, like, he made all the right moves and London got open against the secondary that's healthier now, too, for Houston. So I was surprised to see the Falcons put it on Houston like this.
And that's a test. That's a test for D'Amico Ryans' defense. You have a 1-point lead with 1:49 to play. Maybe they get to the point. Maybe they're going to need some more talent. Maybe the scheme will get there eventually where they'll get that stop to win the game. But I know Ryan's a defensive guy. That hurts.
Right. And they couldn't really stop him all day other than those 2 forced fumbles. I think it was Bijan did have one of the fumbles. Maybe that's why he didn't play. And Jonnu Smith had another. But Ritter had on dropbacks 9.2 yards per play. 9.2.
They had 447 yards in total offense.
It was a no-joke effort, and I think Ryan Nielsen and his outrageous mustache, I don't know if you guys have seen this thing.
Is it one of the twirly ones?
No, it's like...
Catfish hunter?
Yeah,
it's just so bushy and wide. It makes Arthur Smith almost look feminine. I mean,
like Gene Siegel type?
I should have asked for a picture, but he's got this defense playing well. Like Jesse Bates and A.J. Terrell is a real deal duo. Like their linebackers are good. Calais Campbell got hurt in this game, but otherwise Campbell and Jarrett, like they're a real defense. They're not great, but they're just average at very worst.
Not Gene Siegel. Gene Shalit
from NBC, the Today Show.
Is it a Gene Shalit type mustache?
No, it's not a Shalit.
You know that?
I don't know.
You don't know that. You don't know. You don't.
I know who Gene Shalit. I remember who Gene.
You know Shalit?
I know Shalit.
I didn't think you.
My mom watched the Today Show
Crazy movie reviewer
on like a 3-inch screen. One of the remember like the
kitchen TV.
Moms used to have 3-inch kitchen TV.
Like a radio attached to it and stuff.
You're like,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
It was like, Mom, we don't need it, Mom.
We had the Today Show on every single weekday in our house. I mean, hours at a time, and Gene Shalit was a large part of my childhood.
That mustache.
Gene, clean it up. Like, I know it's your thing, but
his mustache took all
Not
3
practical.
inches up. It was insane.
all right. Good job. Let's see if you can string it together and make the Falcons truly interesting. Because that's all.
Do it
they
a
just
couple
need to
weeks
be
in a row.
average.
Do it a couple weeks in a row.
He doesn't need to be great. They do need to. We got to get rid of this timeshare in the backfield, but we'll get to that.
I mean, I don't know.
Just calm down.
You don't need to have 400
One guy's averaging
touches.
3.5 yards per carry behind the same offensive line.
But you want
And the other guy's averaging 5.5. Maybe
Hold
give
on,
it to the guy
Tyler
that's
Algier
got 5.5.
literally is my guy from a year ago. And
but he
Tyler
hasn't been
Algier's-
very productive this year. In
I
fairness,
think can I say why?
Tyler
He just gets hotter and hotter
Algier.
physically.
He is officially your guy.
as the game goes along. And so if you're going to interrupt Tyler Algiers, if you're going to give the ball to someone else, we got a problem.
You know that mustache. Now I'm seeing it. Who is that?
That's Ryan Nielsen, their defensive coordinator.
That's getting a little uncomfortable. You remember when Jordan grew the mustache?
No,
It was
it's
like that's a
so-
little too close.
It's a little trimmed.
You know who?
Trimmed kind of, a little tight.
It's not. It's not a mustache like that because the hairs are like 4 inches long. I mean,
little
he could
close for
braid.
comfort there.
He could braid his
Little
mustache.
European,
A little bit, little tyrant-y.
a part of Europe.
Right. We don't need it.
We're not
We don't
asking.
need any echo effect.
I think it's just that's a bad angle or something. Doesn't look like that.
I'm just saying, it was a bad look for Michael Jordan.
Yeah, it was.
Gene Shalit would be better. All right, let's go. I mean, how did Gene Shalit even eat? Did you ever think about that?
I don't know. There's a lot of things that you'd question how well he did with the setup he had going on.
Oh, hello, Larry.
What?
All right,
We-
to
we-
Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yikes!
Tannehill between the hash marks. 3 receivers deployed to the right side.
You knew what you were
Spears back to
doing.
the left. Waiting on a shotgun snap. He takes it belt high. Backs to throw in the pocket.
I have a theory that I can't share on the show.
It's picked off by the Colts. Intercepted by Indianapolis at the 50-yard line.
Oh!
And that's Julian Blackmon with the game-sealing interception with 10 seconds to go. Colts are going to win. An interception by the Colts defense at the 50-yard line, and the streak will die today against the Tennessee Titans.
Oh, those frisky Indianapolis Colts. Julian Blackmon snagged the pass from Ryan Tannehill, an interception that sealed a 23-17 16 win over the rival Titans. I'm not sure what the streak was. What was it? How many?
They had lost 7 straight home games.
Oh.
I think that's what he's
Those
referring
ones
to.
hurt the most.
5 straight losses to the opponent.
Okay, so 2 streaks.
Oh, well, goodbye to those streaks. A victory tempered, unfortunately, by yet another injury for my guy, Anthony Richardson. More on that later. Mark.
Wait, he's your guy now? Okay.
He's my guy. Did you see NFL Plus on Thursday?
Well,
ATN, we did a rookie redraft.
You drafted him.
2nd overall pick.
True.
My guy. But maybe I'm not celebrating that today.
It's going great.
My guy is stacking up the sick days early here. Mark, this game was hyped up as the return of the newly paid Jonathan Taylor, who got a 3-year, $42 million extension that included, I believe, $26 million guaranteed. However, Zach Moss stole the show as his understudy.
Zach Moss looked great. Taylor came in. He didn't see.
He barely played.
6 carries, 18 yards. I mean, it's understandable.
Makes sense.
They'll heat him up, but like, I don't know. I don't know why I don't know. Now you pay him after all this time, but Zach Moss, who had 280 yards into this game.
Mark, that organization is known to surprise you with decisions
They
that
come up
seem
with some
to come out of the blue.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, it made sense to pay him, don't we think?
Right, but it's just that organization has a way about, zigging and zagging in ways that are unpredictable.
Yes. It was
the way it unfurled, was why did your whole philosophical approach to Jonathan Taylor suddenly change?
I have a theory, but I'm not going to share it. But you know what it is.
I have a theory that I will share,
Go
which
ahead.
is more just, well, they just waited for the boss to calm down. They wanted to do this the whole time.
Yeah.
It's just like, all right, let's just, maybe after a month he'll calm down and we can do what we want.
No, right.
It's one or the other, right? It's either the boss demanded it to happen or the boss wasn't paying attention or didn't care anymore. It's like one of those things.
Well, you snuck it by him.
Yeah.
I don't know how $26 million gets snuck by someone, but he's of a different pay class than we are. I mean, this was a game where I was like, I kind of like Tennessee's chances potentially. You've got this pretty gnarly run defense, and you've been running the ball. Like last week, they ran the ball real well. Tennessee, I mean, Derrick Henry, 43 yards on 13 carries. Couldn't get going. You give up 193 yards. Zach Moss played the game of his life. I just think that his performance this season has been huge because I think he was someone we would have just written off a month ago in general. So here's the thing. Anthony Richardson goes down, and the diagnosis from the Pellraiser is that he's got an AC joint sprain in his throwing shoulder. MRI to come, X-rays are negative.
I thought the season was over when it happened.
We'll see, but it's like the way he was walking, because we're always just like trying to look at, like when you say you see the helmet slam, I think it's like body language telling you something. He was just like, I thought it was maybe a broken collarbone. It was just hanging off his body, his arm.
Here's the thing about Richardson that makes me nervous because obviously the ability to stay on the field, that's a skill set, and like this is now 3 separate injuries. There was a lower body injury in week 1. There was a head injury in week 3, I believe. And now we have a shoulder injury. It wasn't.
He only finished 1 game. He's played 4. He's finished 1.
Mark, did that seem like an especially vicious hit to you? That's the thing. Like,
I think you landed funny on.
Yeah, I think it's like, I mean,
it gets me nervous. Is like it's one thing when you get absolutely your clock clean, but it's and I didn't follow him in college enough to know if this was. It's just ironic.
He didn't have many starts in college, so there isn't a big sample size. I would say this, like, if it was like the calf thing with Burrow, and it's like he keeps re-aggravating, it's like, all right, well, it's different types of injuries, and the body's breaking down in different types of ways. They're really lucky because this is a watchable, enjoyable team. They're lucky to have some of these teams like there's no one behind Burrow. That's why Burrow's playing. Like they have the Bills, the Bengals had these shoddy backup situations. You've got Gardner Minshew, who in 2 relief appearances has thrown for 326 yards and a touchdown and gone 30 for 37.
It's a luxury.
And he is a fringe starter, and he's such a different player than Richardson, obviously. But with Steichen running the show, you kind of trust that, like, when Minshew's in there, that they're going to do things really well still. And there were a couple things about Minshew today that I just thought showed me who he is. Like, they were up 20-16 outside the 2-minute warning, and he had a 10-yard strike to Alec Pierce, who's played a little bit better over these last couple weeks. And Minshew got absolutely rocked on the play, and he knew it. He knew he was going to. And he just did the thing where you're like, I like this guy because he stood in the pocket and delivered the ball and it was like, are we going to lose him too? Because he took the kind of hit that does knock a quarterback out. I'll say one thing, flip side, that this Colts defense, I feel like it's DeForest Buckner, Zaire Franklin today was insane. And this defensive front seems to create punishment and do something special week after week. And today they handled Derrick Henry, who last week looked like he was completely reborn. Ryan Tannehill had a pass or two of his own where he does the Ryan Tannehill thing where he got absolutely leveled, unfurling a shot downfield. I always think he's courageous. And DeAndre Hopkins, who, we've sort of been waiting for this game, 8 catches, 140 yards, totally unstoppable.
He's been good.
This was the one where it's I think he can be, I'm not so concerned about their wide receiver group in general because he looked like the old DeAndre Hopkins.
There was also a Derrick Henry halfback option play at the goal line where he just missed Hopkins getting his second foot down. That would have been a touchdown on top of it. So yeah, he's not the same Nuke anymore, but he's definitely an option. This is not a Julio Jones situation in Tennessee.
No.
I mean, this is a throwback type of game. You got Julian Blackmon, who 3 years ago Wes was talking about on this podcast, just looking like maybe a defensive rookie of the year type of guy, and has kind of been in the wilderness making a big play. And then them, being able to run the ball, them stuffing Henry. The key sequence was that they had a 4th down in the fourth quarter. The Titans did 4th and 1 on the Colts 5. They stop it, and then they basically kill the rest of the game on a 7-minute field goal drive. There was only 7 possessions in this game. I mean, after Minshew came over, they were pretty spotless with these long drives. Titans, on paper, have a decent defense. They had 1 punt in this game, and they didn't have a turnover.
Right.
And Titans fans...
The Colts, rather, only had 1 punt.
Titans fans are going to want to make sure we mention this, that final field goal drive was sustained on a pass interference penalty on Christian Fulton, where I thought it was a bad call. He thought it was a bad call. In fact, Christian Fulton said after the game, I thought it was a bad call. It's hard when you got to play against the refs and the wide receivers, but that's the life of a DB. That was on 3rd and 12 in the fourth quarter. He got tangled up with Michael Pittman. There was some contact, and that allowed that drive to continue, and it took a lot of time off the clock and essentially ended the game. It's tough. You see those calls every week. Obviously, I was bitching and moaning about what happened to the Jets against the Chiefs last week. I just don't like ticky-tack defensive holding or PI calls in the final minutes of games unless it's something where you got to take the laundry out. Look at the Super Bowl. What happened to the Eagles against the Chiefs?
That was a carbon copy of the Jets thing to some degree, and it seems to be dotted across games on a weekly basis, and we're kind of just stuck with the result.
Curious about the staying power of these two teams. We'll see. 3-2. Colts are 3-2. They're a real team.
It's it's disappointing on Richardson because, like we said, he has a small sample size in college.
Well, now it's a concern.
Well, now it's now he's going to enter year 2 with only a very limited amount of snaps.
I don't think they're thinking it. By the way the reporting is, I don't think they're thinking it's season ending or anything.
I was saying that's how it looked at the time. The reporting out there, Rap Sheet said that it's an AC joint sprain, which is the same thing that Derek Carr didn't miss any time with, and hopefully it's one of those situations. But Derek Carr looked like he was in a lot of pain when that happened on the Saints. Richardson looked like a guy that was like, yeah, I'll see in 2 months. So we'll see how it progresses and how careful they are with him because – yeah, this has gotten to the point now where it's a major concern for this team. And there's an irony to it because we've talked about no one looks more impressive physically to ever play the quarterback position than Anthony Richardson, and yet that body is refusing to cooperate.
The one thing I think you have, though, is it's early, but a special coach in Steichen. There's something about this offense, the way it's organized, and they've been through a lot, and they continue to produce.
You know what else is special? Mike McDaniel and that offense in Miami.
Correct.
Transition.
Out to the 24-yard line. Ingold in motion. They give it to Achane.
Oh, stop it.
Great speed down the sideline. Nobody's going to catch him.
Here you go.
Touchdown, Miami.
What great speed on top of that. Safety takes a bad angle on it. I think he forgot who he was chasing and trying to tackle.
What is this song? What is happening in Miami? What's going on?
Having a good old time.
That screams football.
I just watched the Beckham
hayride.
Yeah, the Beckham documentary on Netflix. David Beckham, the footballer from England, and he just bought a Miami football team for MLS. Pink Nets. Like we're in a whole other world down there.
It is. We went to the
South
Super Bowl
Florida.
down there. A lot of great, strange things occurred.
And I like the color pink, Greg. Don't twist it.
Weird that you thought I was.
Greg, I'm a feminist. How dare you call out the pink net? I'm just saying things are a little different down there.
I'm troubled that that's where you think I was thinking about. I was thinking about the Beckham. He bought that team a while ago. You know, give the MLS some props.
That was a good doc, though. Check it out, everybody. Really feel good about the staying power of the Posh Spice Beckham marriage. Like a legitimately healthy relationship.
Yeah, it seems to be.
Good take there by me. All right, let's get to it. Devon A-Chain's delivered once again, zipping through that hole. Pay dirt, 76 yards. Dolphins cruise, 31-16 over the, wait for it, moribund New York Giants. Mark, some teams have shown how the Dolphins can be slowed, but this version of Big Blue, they're not one of those teams.
No, they had no chance. I think part of it is you got to give your defense a chance by producing on offense. And they had 11 sacks on Monday night. Less than a week later, the Giants gave up 7 today. This is an offensive line that has drafted 5 linemen in the first 3 rounds since 2020, more than anyone league-wide, and it does not show. They are a raging, boiling mess. Daniel Jones left with a neck injury at the end, and it was like you're kind of just waiting. How long until Daniel Jones is hurt? Because he's getting killed back there. TBD on where we'll be with that.
He's getting an MRI.
I don't know. And then they have Tyrod Taylor in there, and he's getting killed. And it's like, this is just not sustainable. And it's like, you can blame Brian Daboll, play calling, all this other stuff. It's like, you can't function. But in general, like, you can't function when you're watching Miami go up and down the field. I mean, their huge plays. So today, they fully amassed after this start of this season, 2,568 yards, the most by any team through 5 weeks of the season in NFL history. It was the greatest show on turf, the 2000 Rams, that were second in that category, and it's real, and it's legit, and I know what happened against Buffalo, but it's like you're not going to take away the speed and the big plays. They have 7 touchdown drives this season of less than 1 minute. Again, leads the league, obviously. Like, they have the 7 fastest speeds recorded. We know that. It was 5 a couple weeks ago. Now it's 7. Dan, I know this is not news to you because people were tweeting you left and right. But you asked for this.
Many a tweet.
You asked for it.
I did.
You wanted a player, and not a defender or someone else, but a ball carrier to run 22 miles an hour finally.
Do we have that tweet? Let's fly it up. Do we have that X? I mean, doesn't make sense. Let's see. Marcel Louis Jacques. Great name. Tyreek Hill clearly. He proceeds to hit 22.01 miles per hour on that 68-yard catch and run.
He did it.
So it wasn't even the A-Chain score. It was Tyreek's catch and run. 22 with the ball.
With the ball. So that was a 64-yarder.
Get back to me when you have the ball behind the line of scrimmage.
No.
And then get through.
Your demands.
And then you break into the open field.
Your demands must cease at this point because it was a very specific
honestly,
ask.
Congratulations, because #22 is something I've been waiting for.
Well, you got it.
And apparently Raheem Mostert, again, I did get a lot of tweets about this, against the Jets a few years ago, hit 23. So now it's like, hey, if that was already done like multiple years ago, I don't care about 22. Get me another 20.
Well, they're lucky Mostert didn't do it today. I mean, Hill had another 69-yard touchdown. Achane had that 76-yard. Like, Achane right now, he didn't even play the first week. 460 yards off of 38 carries. This isn't like some freak wide receiver that had 3 carries. I think like 25 more people have more carries than him, but he has 460 yards. He's averaging 12.1 yards per carry.
It's crazy.
And I do think Mike McDaniel, they keep asking about these stats in the post game. Here's what he had to say.
Mission accomplished. We had the whole time, the whole off season. That was our goal was output after 5 games. I mean, I think it speaks to what the group is capable of. But
you need that facial expression to make it pop.
And
Deadpan.
You're honored to be in the same breath for any statistical.
Yeah, he's.
By the way, it's not a record. Okay, it's It's a stat. It's not a record. It's a they broke the record for most yards after 5 games. It's like that's not a record. That's a stat.
Stop, Ray.
Why are you in such an ill mood about this?
No, just because I've seen this too. Like they actually made a big deal about
you're doing that thing. You hate all early season things.
No. Because you could say like
no MVP talk.
It's not
a stat talk.
It's not a thing of like. You did this. This is the most after week 6. That's a record. No,
That's
it's
fair,
just a stat after week 6.
Okay, but I think it's an indicator.
Like
it's a measuring stick of how explosive.
It's not like literally anyone in the world, including the Rams, were ever conscious of that before this week. They almost made a big deal out of the C.J. Stroud he broke the rookie interception list streak, and even that they said, and in the record is broken, and it was literally on a throw out of bounds. Like
ask
that's
one
not
question.
a record either.
Can I ask one
It's a
question?
Greg's got a real B up his butt.
Can I ask you one question?
Yes.
Who the hell do you think you are?
It's not a record. It's a stat.
That's a good question. Can I mention one quick thing?
They're records to me.
I think it's a fair thing to point out. Would you rather they don't point it out at all?
You could absolutely point it out. Just don't use the word. Just don't use the word record.
All right. Well, at this point, after 5 weeks, they metrically sit in a certain position compared to teams
that is
before
superior to any team in the game's history.
You said it that way.
Previously.
You said it that way. You could just say they have the most yards in history. And
I will say
that's what he said. Mission accomplished, Brownie.
You are no fun at all. No, you can't say it.
I'm echoing Mike McDaniel here. Mission accomplished.
I think you are to some degree. I will say, Tua had a little bit of trouble in this game real quick. Achane did fumble in this, but then they got down. They got down to close to the goal line, and there was a 102-yard pick six by Jason Pinnock of the Giants. And they also had another bad pick by Tua.
Matter.
It doesn't.
They're
but
just messing around with a team that's not even.
The Giants
in the world.
before this game did not have one takeaway.
They stink.
They are. You want to talk about metrics through 4 or 5 weeks, Greg? They got some.
He doesn't.
I know. Well, if you did.
I like to talk about it. Just to call it.
He's like, we're talking about the Giants setting records for futility. I'm all into it. Let's hear them.
Get that haystack. Get that song back up here.
I can't wait till you break the record for sacks between weeks 3 and 5. That's what I mean. It's not a record. That was McDaniel's whole response. Is thanks.
On my New Yorkers chain, got more than a couple buddies that are diehard fans.
Man, they're still watching these games?
No. Got the old, I'm not watching.
Yeah, because it's not fun.
That's how quickly and how bad it's gotten.
They might be the worst team in the NFL, but there's another option. I was gonna say they're long time.
I have another team I might bring up that could potentially.
There's a reason they got the coveted title in reverse of first to be called moribund on ATN because it's been that bad a start. It's been a stunningly terrible start. Even people like you, Greg, that weren't very high on them entering the season, you didn't predict them to be laughably terrible.
But I did take them in my over/under wins-loss draft.
I'm going to see
under 7.5, feeling good.
I'm going to data wipe this file on NFL.com one way or another. Go into the
Where did you have them going?
To the wild card game.
Oh, that's not too bad. At least
it's not too great. It's not looking like a great prediction right now.
Good day for the Dolphins too. It's like you get to see the Bills lose early. You get to cruise. You get first place.
Our buddy Connor. We'll talk about the Patriots later, but he wrote an apology column for.
Well, let's save it for that.
Spicy hot take on the Pats. All right, before we get to that, let's move to Mile High State. You know what happened in Mile High Stadium? An entire organization declared vengeance upon a smug little man on the sideline to Mile High.
41 seconds remaining. 2nd and 10, Denver at their own 41-yard line. They still have one timeout. The Jets again show blitz. Russell Wilson in the shotgun. Are the Jets going to bring pressure? Yes, they will. Russell Wilson being chased. He'll be sacked. The ball pops out. Loose on the far side.
Get it.
It's scooped up. Bryce Hall runs down the right sideline at the 10-5 touchdown.
We go.
As the ruling on the field was a fumble by Russell Wilson off the pressure from Quincy Williams. No doubt about it. Quincy knocked the ball out. It was scooped up by Bryce Hall. He took it the distance. The Jet defense scores to put this game away.
Woo-wee! Oh, the Bungles!
And well deserved.
Eric knows how to make his host happy.
I think the Bongos are going out to Nate Hackett today.
Yeah.
Did
100%.
you see, and throw it up on there for the YouTube viewers, did you see Nate Hackett glowing on the sidelines at the end of this game? And it's not even like the Jets offense balled out and exposed Sean Payton for a lot of the criticisms with Hackett and what he did in Denver last year. But look at, he's like a boy on Christmas. There's Peyton eating dirt. Like, oh, I'm going 6 feet under the ground before Halloween. And look at him. And everyone coming up to Nathaniel Hackett, who was targeted just unfairly by Peyton when Peyton was feeling himself in the summer. And things have a way of coming back to bite you when you do that. Because the Jets score a 31-21 win over the Broncos at Mile High. A win that gets the Jets to 2-3, and all things considered, and the absolute disaster of Aaron Rodgers in Week 1, getting out of these first 5 games with 2 wins, it keeps them relevant in the AFC picture as we get closer to the middle of October. Because if they don't find a way in this game, wrap it up. They get the Eagles next week, and it gets dark, very dark. But they did find a way, and Zach Wilson was not very. I wouldn't say he was terrible in this game, non-competitive. He made some throws, but he also had a brutal interception that led to eventually that big Quincy Williams sack. But it opened the door for the Broncos to steal this game after the Jets had it in control with a big third quarter. But he did hit a couple throws in this game, and in general wasn't completely lost at sea, but he's still a major problem. The thing here is Breece Hall, who, the best story around this Jets team is that Breece Hall is fully back from the knee injury he suffered in Denver 1 year ago. He had a 72-yard touchdown, and as I was watching the highlight of the Breece Hall touchdown, boys, I was thinking to myself, been watching the Jets for 30-plus years, but then I was thinking, I know the history of the team as well. Has there ever been a running back like Breece Hall in the history of the organization that's this explosive, this fast, this type of game changer? Because when you guys watch this game, you'll see there are, I'm going to say, maybe up to 5 plays before he busts this one where he just misses it. He just misses it. He just missed one last week against Kansas City, and you're thinking, man, he keeps putting himself in position to just roll out these monster plays, and he's now hit on a couple of them this year. And so he finishes with 177 yards on the ground. And the Jets defense, which has been good, Greg, as you've been pounding the drum, and you're right about it, good, better than great this year. They failed the test in Week 1 when they had a chance to close out the Bills on the last drive of regulation and gave up the field goal. Another test here in Denver, but this time they step up, and it's Quincy Williams and Breece Hall that get the job done.
Quincy Williams has been a revelation to me. Not to Joe Douglas and the Jets. Give them credit. They gave him a contract this offseason that I thought, that's surprising. That's surprising because I thought he was good and bad last year. It kind of reminds me of like a Quan Alexander type where he makes huge game-changing plays, but he gives them up too. And this year, he's a Pro Bowler. I mean, he's been a beast. Couple sacks in this game, and they sent pressure late, and that's one of the. I want to get back to Breece Hall, but while we're talking Quincy, like that's one thing I'll remember from this game is how they sent pressure a couple times on that last drive, and you saw this exchange after Quincy Williams gets the sack, and Sean Payton talking to Russell Wilson, and some amateur lip readers out there thought he said to Russell Wilson, like the running back was the hot, the running back was the where you want to get, and twice on that drive. The Jets confused Russell Wilson where he didn't know where to throw the ball quickly, and that's been a problem for him for his whole career. Give credit to the Jets.
Yeah, like their strengths are still their strengths. They've been through, obviously, total darkness and chaos and had their season kind of tossed up asunder, but the defensive line comes in waves, and it's like what happened today shows you what they can be. And like Breece Hall is, I guess I could point to like Curtis Martin as a true Jets hero.
I love Curtis Martin. He's one of the best running backs of his generation, but he didn't have that.
No, they're not
you know
the
what's
same
funny
player.
though is the player he reminds me most. I was thinking about this today in the NFL. Actually, is a former Jet as well. It was not the same when he was on the Jets. Chris Johnson. That's who, because it's that feeling where it's kind of that feeling where that when because he had 100. What did he have in this game? 177. He had over 100 yards, even if you took out that 72 or 8, 9. And it just, you're right. It felt like when they're getting him by the ankles, like, ooh, that was almost 35. And that's what Chris Johnson.
Yeah, there's this like this thing, and it's not because it's your team, Dan. but like, so you lose Elijah Vera Tucker for part of this game. Mekhi Becton's in and out of the lineup. Joe Tippmann gets hurt. You don't have a good offensive line to begin with, and it's like to do what they did with a really shaky quarterback play, and it's like they had the drive where like Zach Wilson doesn't even get the ball off before it was at the half, and like there's these you got to get around this, and I do think that like Nathaniel Hackett there's nothing about him that says, hey, wow, this is a super creative approach to attacking opponents in the ball, and like. It's not. I'm not sure what huge, incredible strength he brings to the team, but there is something I like about this team, and like I have to say,
fly around like a butterfly.
Well, I think it's his personality. I really think they love him, and it's like to see all those people coming up to him at the end of this game.
Everybody.
I mean, it's like he had eye black on his cheek because players were just hugging him like face to face, and they adore him, and like. Whatever happens to this Jets team, there's just these things to like about them this season, and I think they are resilient, and they could have completely mailed it in. I see a completely different opposite effect in general. Their effort's very high. They're using their strengths, and I don't know. They're hard not to root for, and it's like I kind of, Sean Payton, it's like I'm not going to judge him. Like we all make mistakes and do stuff like that, but he created him a villainous element for himself. I wasn't necessarily rooting for or against Sean Payton, but it's like, in this game, who's rooting for Sean Payton outside of a Broncos fan? It's like you went and completely shot down someone and their effort, a fellow coach. And not trying to be precious about it, but like the right people won today.
Zach Wilson on Nathaniel Hackett right here.
Told us that Hackett got a game ball. I'm wondering, I know you just touched on it a minute ago, but were there any cool scenes in the locker room afterwards? If you could describe, if you had any interaction with him, the celebratory.
Yeah, you could see the emotion on his face a little bit, and he's trying not to show it, but we all gave him a big hug, told him we love him, told him we're grateful to have him here, and it means a lot to us. Obviously, winning's hard in this league, so that's first and foremost, but obviously how things went for him this past year, it's tough, so, it means a lot.
Denver 1-4, 0-3 at home, at Kansas City next week, home against Packers.
It's not been a good couple. It's not been a good
Buffalo.
couple of years for Broncos season ticket holders. It's been a little rough. I know people
that schedule is screaming 1-8 right now, and
they're going to be mentioned with teams that are going to trade players. They traded Randy Gregory, and now we're going to hear that. Our guy Ian Rappaport
busy October for Kevin Saunders,
right? Kevin Saunders back in the mix.
Players that he went and got, Kevin Saunders.
Right, and then, I saw Ian said, well, Frank Clark could be available. It's like, ooh. It's like, you think? It's like a player that was available in August that no one wanted then and hasn't been healthy
right.
this
Quite
year,
frankly, like I'm so sick of hearing that Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton could be had. I was like, I don't know. Like I'm not. They don't have the same shine to me that they did a couple of years ago.
Put Jerry Jeudy on the Chiefs, and he'll suddenly be catching like a 3rd and 20 to win the Super Bowl.
Probably. Probably. Okay. Nice though. Zach Wilson is still a quarterback that you have to hide, and that doesn't work in the league. Here's a Jets troll, by the way, on Twitter. The old Kevin James. I don't know. Everybody had a good time at Sean Payton's expense, but the Jets still have a problem at quarterback, and that is something to keep an eye on. But 2-3, given everything, I would take it. Let's move on to the one team the Jets will never be able to beat, the New England Patriots. Once again, had their hands full this time against the Saints.
Empty backfield for Mac Jones, but now brings Stevenson to his left and trying to move a few people around. Takes the snap out of the shotgun. Saints bring 4, and Carl Benson, the ball's picked off.
No.
That's Tyrann Mathieu, 15, 10. He will walk into the end zone. Pick 6 for the Saints. That's how you do it. Don't wait on your offense. Let the defense do it. That is the 3rd pick 6 for Mac Jones, and this is week 5.
Man. I know you're not going to believe it, Greg, but they showed that cut to Belichick on the sideline. And maybe it's like the passing of youth. And
yes,
it's weird to see Belichick look confused and helpless on the sideline because everybody has a party when they play the Patriots these days. On Sunday at Gillette Stadium, it was the Saints' turn. Tyrann Mathieu started the scoring with a pick 6 of Mac Jones, and Alvin Kamara rushed for a touchdown. Derek Carr threw 2 touchdowns and a 34-zip.
Wow.
Pasting of the erstwhile Throne of Ease. God dang. Greg, mark down another win for the iconic Flashpoint Focus series. The Patriots' ineptitude will be one of the biggest stories in football this week.
I think that is the main takeaway here. You guys have done it again.
Hit it. Go ahead.
I do appreciate, though, that you recognize my efforts as an associate producer on this last episode. I suggested Tom. So.
Wait, what was that? Did you just give yourself a title?
Yeah, associate producer. That's that bonus money that hit during the podcast. They were like, great job getting Tom Curran wanted to do the Patriots. I appreciate that, guys.
What's another title? I mean, that feels strong, aggressive.
Yeah, I'd say quality control assistant.
Hey,
assistant.
Best boy.
Best boy.
That's how Josh McDaniels started. Look at him now.
Junior grip.
Before we get to the
Junior grip, that's it.
The Patriots total mess, we can get there. I do find it funny, frankly, that I think Pete Carmichael, the Saints offensive coordinator, was pressured by Saints fans and media into updating to 2023 this week. That he was destroyed locally for just running this old school offense, and they literally asked him in the press, like, how come you never use any motion? And he was just like, actually, he was just like, actually, we can. That's in the offense. I just never call it. That's on me. And he listened to him. And this entire game, they're going motion crazy. They were last in the league on motion, and all their touchdowns were set up by motion. So
that's okay, by the way.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, it's not what you want in your coach because you want them to be ahead of the game like we are with the flashpoint focus.
Sure.
But it's also a good sign that you're open to ideas wherever they may come.
He also didn't really want to be the offensive coordinator a year ago.
That was the reporting. I mean, it's always been kind of whispered. And so, I think he was happy to get suggestions. And look, your defense has to be pretty great to win 34-0 on a day you probably got a B-, C+ Derek Carr, and really a B-, C+ offense. I mean, they got
you could just call it Derek Carr.
They got 1 million chances, and they had 304 yards, and yet they were so dominant defensively, only gave up 8 first downs. Carl Granderson, who got a contract extension during the season, has been incredible, and I think the Saints are built for this matchup. Here's what they're built for: to swallow up bad passing teams, because they're secondary. I think their cornerbacks are elite, so they can play well from ahead against mediocre to poor opponents and kind of stomp on teams. They remind me a little bit of last year's Patriots. I think they have a little higher upside than that, but when they play a bad offense, they can just make them look ridiculously bad.
Mark, do you want to hear Mac Jones on slow start or Belichick? Mac Jones is still our quarterback.
Well, I want to hear Belichick.
Okay, Bill.
Bill, what went into the decision to sit down Mac there in the later stages of the game?
At the end of the third quarter. So.
Big up, Bill.
Is he still your quarterback going forward?
Yeah, there was a lot of problems. It certainly wasn't all him.
Oh my God! And flashing back to Tom Curran on the show, Bill, he's besieged right now. It's like coming from all angles, and now he's after years of almost having the upper hand on the media because no matter what they would say to him, he could just point to all the rings and everything. But now it just feels like he's left to answer things that it's clear he doesn't have any answers right now. And then the Patriots are lost.
Yeah. I mean, you've been outscored 69-3 in the last 2 outings, which is like a shocking.
One of those was against the Saints.
Yeah.
The Saints.
I guess I'm really with you, Dan, on the fact I don't particularly take any joy or entertainment from it on some level, in the sense that the look on his face right there, and if you see it on the YouTube, it looks like a man who's lost. And you have a coaching staff that is smaller than any other coaching staff in the league. You're the GM. You've created this punchless offense. It's on you. It's fully on you. And I think that it's an interesting historical point in time as a football fan or to watch a watcher of the sport to see what is, without question in my mind, the greatest football coach of all time going through this totally dark period. And to the point of the Flashpoint segment, we're openly asking if he'll be here after this season. And I'm at the point with the Flashpoint thing that we could literally pick any topic and do it again this week, and it would become something massive by next Sunday night.
Mm-hmm.
It's that prescient. It's that on point. And we dialed up our topic, and then now it is a national firestorm in the media.
we should test that theory out. I don't know how. We'll have to pick a very arcane topic.
We should. We did. My boys love watching. They became baseball fans this year, and we watch the MLB app a lot. And they'll be in the next room playing Nintendo, and I'll be watching a game, and somebody will hit a home run, and then I'll quietly rewind it back 40 seconds. And then I'll say, guys, come in here. and then I say, guys, I got a feeling again.
This is ridiculous.
And then I go, it's a pull from the old Pee Wee's Playhouse, rest in peace, Paul Rubens. Mecca lecca hi, mecca hiney ho. Mecca lecca hi, mecca chiny ho. And then Giancarlo Stanton hits one 512 feet, and it works. They're still into it. They believe.
See, your dad did not have this technology to, I wouldn't say trick, but it's tricking you into thinking he had a superpower.
Keith didn't have that gene at all to do anything like that. Even if, Danny, get over here, scrambling to take the VCR back. I don't even know what that ties into the point we were making, but
no, because like you are creating these moments with you have a psychic, almost an ESP type element, and we do with our.
But we actually do in this case.
Yeah, we do.
Yes,
you absolutely do.
And Greg too, to some degree.
Associate producers matter too.
Junior grip.
Like everyone's gonna talk about Mac Jones.
Assistant to the junior grip.
And Mac Jones is playing some really dumb football. The pick six comes on where he's trying to make too many plays. He's making it worse. He's falling apart, obviously. But the reason that I'm so convinced Belichick is losing it / has lost it is not Mac Jones. It's that their special teams is maybe the worst in the NFL. He's poured so much money into the special teams, and that's his baby. That's his thing. Like, we're going to be better on the details. I think they were 31st or 32nd DVOA heading into this week. They got rid of Nick Folk, for instance, and their rookie kicker yanks another kick when this game was relatively a game at this point. Their rookie punter's a disaster. All their return units, like coverage units, are disasters. Their offensive line since Scarnecchia left has been a total abomination. Their right tackles right now, Verdarian Lowe, who's just getting Mac and Bailey Zappi just killed, like, is unplayable. Their offensive line is one of the very worst. So these are the things that they were so good at. Line play, special teams, details, where it's like that's just as bad as the more higher level stuff, and it's just as bad as any team in the league. And that to me is the sign that they gone.
Yeah, I think Matt Patricia has too much respect and love for Bill to be dancing in his home wherever he is. Where is he now? He's on a sideline somewhere, right?
I think he's like a special assistant to the Eagles.
But it did kind of, I was thinking about that as like Pittsburgh fans were coming at me also, that sometimes you just point to the scheme or the coordinator and you put all the blame on that. And then you see, like as the Patriots as an example, sometimes it's more than that. It's not just the play caller or the scheme. There are more issues, and we're seeing New England has issues that go very deep.
Right, there's no
the roots.
I don't know what they do either, because they brought in Bailey Zappi these last 2 weeks, and Zappi was worse. If Zappi had done well in this game, people would have been like, "Oh, it was just garbage time." But actually,
they cut his ass.
He went 3 for 9 for 22 yards and went backwards and all this stuff. Very quickly, congrats to Alvin Kamara is the all-time leader in Saints touchdowns. That's pretty cool. That's a long history there. Past Marcus Colston.
And Cam Jordan is the all-time sack leader. They got two Saints legends playing on that team.
And I got some tweets, or at least just one, that asked Mark, can the Saints, the Orleans Saints, get their new back after winning 34-0?
They get the new. Yeah.
Okay.
Not the Orleans Saints.
They're tied for first in the AFC.
Was that was like the new bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Orleans were now. We remain. I'm sorry to London, but let's the England Patriots right now.
Yeah, we're trading you.
I don't know why.
Be careful.
Suddenly they're
getting
stuck
on a plane in a short.
I'll
amount
revise
of time.
that probably before Tuesday night.
All right, let's head to Detroit, where the Lions look to keep things rolling.
Off the takeaway, gadget play. They're going to go with a flea flicker. Goff throws, man, wide open. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Sam Laporta. Razzle dazzle and 6 on the board.
Woo! Dan, I know it's getting close to Halloween. I know we like to play tricks. That was some trickeration right there. Ben Johnson, he's coming with him. Coming with him today.
Oh, man. You heard Dan Miller there was Lomas Brown as well. Dan Miller, I brought this up before, but for my pain ranking series on NFL.com, I picked one figure connected to the team to interview as part of the article. And I spoke with Dan Miller, and it was about all the sadness and all the badness and all the pain of the franchise and people connected to it. And he couldn't have been a nicer guy. And you hear his voice on that call. And what a party it is to be part of the Lions as a fan, as the play-by-play man, as the color guy. You got to love it. Jared Goff threw 3 touchdown passes in the first half, ran for another score in the fourth quarter. Man, he's got fleet feet now, too. And the Lions cruise 42-24 over the hapless Panthers. Mark, Dan Campbell's team is telling us every week they're not just some cute underdog anymore. They are truly, well, Lions.
Oh,
they are. There's the joy coming from them. And this is 3 straight wins of 14 plus points. It was a dominant crushing of Carolina. Not a good team, but they went and blew their doors off. And I kind of get the sense they're kind of just coming into focus. We're just starting to see what they can become even this year. You're watching this team transform. And I think GM Brad Holmes, I don't know what he learned under Les Snead in Los Angeles, but I know that LA's we refuse to draft players. We don't really operate in the draft for the most part. Sam Laporta, 3 catches, 47 yards, 2 touchdowns today. Jack Campbell, week after week, is doing something special. It's like everyone was laughing at that draft pick. You brought in Josh Reynolds from the Rams, Goff's old teammate. Played a huge role today with Amon-Ra St. Brown out of the lineup, Jahmyr Gibbs out of the lineup.
They've had so many injuries. That's what part of what's
it's
impressive.
They're so resilient.
They've been as injured almost as any team in the league.
Right. You don't have Gibbs. Dave Montgomery coming off a great week last week. 109 yards today, a touchdown. Dominant. Jared Goff, 22 for 28 for 236 yards and 3 touchdowns. It is like a campaign of beautiful revenge for Jared Goff. And I'm kind of over whatever I thought of him before, because we say it after week, he fits like a puzzle piece in this offense. And then you just go and look at someone like Aiden Hutchinson, who had a masterful interception on a tight end screen type today, where he made Bryce Young look silly and not able to see the field. And that's a whole different part of this conversation. I'll mention one thing, that Chandler Zavala, the rookie guard, went down he went to the hospital with a neck injury. I don't know where we're at with that, but it was one of those things that looked very, very scary out of the gate, and the game paused for a while, and he gave a thumbs up as he was leaving the field, so hopefully he'll be all right. But this Lions team, wow. I honestly think that they're not a sleeping giant. We're seeing it. They're here.
They're right there at the top of the NFC. I mean, the good teams in the NFC are really good, but they're one of them coming out of the gates. And again, I'm also the one that says September is not going to matter that much in the long run, and they're building up, and we'll see if they can keep it going. The schedule has definitely helped them out, but that's the best sign of a great team, to survive injuries and to beat bad opponents and to start mixing in new stars. Aleem McNeil has been playing really well. He had a forced fumble in this game. They tried to get Jamison Williams involved, and it was kind of a disaster. That's maybe the only fly in the ointment.
Disaster?
Well, he had a big drop. They had 3 targets, 2 yards. Yeah, disasters maybe overstating it, but a big-time drop.
All right. Anything else on the Panthers side? It's just more of the same there.
Just I'm waiting to see it with Bryce Young, and I keep the comment about him is well, you see it in little moments. It's I guess I'm not. I mean, the interception by Hutchinson was just a bad look. He had a terrible read on a second pick, and I mean, look at the team around him is a mess on offense, and the offensive line's not good. But it's even if all that were the case, if he were when we were looking at an Anthony Richardson, you still see these special qualities, and I'm just waiting for it.
It was kismet for Aiden Hutchinson to end up where he was, where he ended up, as a Michigan guy and all that. It's amazing. He has a lot of interceptions in his career.
I know.
He has the most in 3 or whatever it is, 3 or 4 is the most in NFL history through 2 years from a defensive lineman.
Does that stat count?
That's a stat, but it's not a record.
God,
I don't think that's not a record.
I just want to rip this table apart.
Can you imagine living with me? Well, it is a great record, but I really consider the most important record that. The defensive lineman who has the most interceptions through year 4 of his career. Wow, what a record that is for.
Right, but even from
nobody knows. Nobody knows who has
Greg,
any of that stuff.
Even from your conceit about this whole thing, even that wouldn't have any meaning.
That was my joke. That was the point. That was the joke. Now I had to explain it. That was it.
I'm just taking Greg seriously because I feel like he's dug in so heavily on this.
I mean, come on. I feel bad. This Panthers team is sad.
All right, let us head to one more game, and it's the game everybody was waiting for. Sunday Night Football, Niners-Cowboys.
You got Jonathan Hankins right in the A-gap here. What's he going to do here on 3rd down and 1?
I can guess.
They're going to give it. No, it's a play action. Purdy going to roll left, throw for the end zone. Caught by George Kittle. He has the hat trick tonight, a career high. 3 touchdown catches for George. Touchdown, San Francisco.
Greg Papa. 49ers radio. Man, we've been hearing a lot from Greg last few years because the 49ers have been one of the very best operations in the game. And once again, in prime time against a Cowboys team that thought they were up to the challenge, they proved when they're humming right now. Are they without equal? Eagles have something to say about that, and we'll find out in time. 42-10. Niners over Cowboys. And Greg, that score accurately sums up what we witnessed, which was carnage, an absolute stomping. One contender, maybe one pretender. I don't know.
I am stunned by how thorough it was, and it just gets me thinking about what kind of NFL do you want? We want better Sunday night games. First of all, we want these games that look like, hey, this is the latest game of the year, like Bills Dolphins last week. We want it to be closer. We want it to be a great game. But I also love an NFL where the great teams are truly great. I like having the Chiefs there year after year. I like that the 49ers and the Eagles right now are 5-0, and the rest of the NFC is just going to have to deal with them or catch up. And the 49ers are a team we know so well. Like, it feels new because Purdy's there, but so many of these guys were there in 2019 when they were a couple plays away from winning the Super Bowl, and then they're back knocking on the doorstep in 20 and 21 in the conference championship. And now the offense and the defense being this great together where both sides of the ball can dominate a good Cowboys team this thoroughly is just impressive. But I like an NFL where a 49ers team is this good this early in the season.
Yeah, because we can look at the schedule.
Spin it, Greggy.
You can. Well, I
don't like this game, but I'm just impressed, and I'm impressed with greatness.
I see what you mean
know?
because I growing up as a fan in the 80s and early 90s, the parity that we have now was something they were longing for, I guess, on some level. But it was typically like when the NFC won the Super Bowl like 15, 16 years in a row, these dominant, roving, massive teams that were dynasties, essentially. You go from one dynasty to the next. So I look down the schedule and they play in December, Philadelphia and San Francisco. I'd rather it be a Titanic thing that we're sort of on the horizon. Because I look at this game, I was talking to you, Dan, like, on the preview show, I'm saying, well, Dallas needs to prove something to me. I've been suspicious of them, and it wasn't just the Cardinals game, but it's like,
they proved something.
Who are they? And like, are they like as good as they seem in some of these high moments when you blew up the Giants, which now looks, like ho-hum. This game really doesn't tell me too much about Dallas, to be honest, because I think they can still go win.
Oh, come on.
Well, no, but they can go win 11 or 12 games. Here's what I don't trust them, but I didn't trust them before this game. And I don't trust them in big spots, and I don't trust them in January. This, to me,
I don't trust them in this matchup because this very well could be the same matchup in San Francisco at some point in the playoffs.
Sure. All I'm saying is it's telling me more about the powerful, almost indestructible nature of a healthy Niners team.
Yeah, I'm a little bummed about the game because I know the Niners are a superpower. I know the Eagles are a superpower. But then look at the rest of the NFC. Maybe Detroit. Cross your fingers. Okay.
I mean, they're looking as good as you could possibly
Detroit's
hope.
interesting.
But it's early. Okay, right now they look great. The Cowboys, to me, this was a clear measuring stick game where you were exposed here. You'll be okay. You're gonna probably get a playoff spot unless you get hit with injuries. But I'm not now I'm not really looking forward to if that game happens again, whether it be wild card round or divisional round. The Cowboys and the Niners playing against each other, there's not a lot of juice to it because I know what this is about. This is a 49ers team that is much more talented and a Cowboys team, they're never going to admit it, but this team's in their head on top of it. And they played something during the pregame show on NBC of Dak getting indignant in a press conference ahead of this game. This is earlier in the week. and a reporter asked if like the playoff game last year or how the last two playoffs have ended your seasons against San Francisco, does that kind of stick with you? And he kind of glared at the reporter. He's like, thanks for reminding me. And he's like, yeah, it does bother me. It bothers him. And he kind of walked off. And I don't know, he was kind of playing it up a little bit. Also, like this idea that like, there was a chip on my shoulder and we have a grudge. We're going to settle things this weekend. And then you don't even show up.
You had 8 first downs.
You don't even show up. And Dak is terrible again in a big spot, and he's not alone. Nobody else shows up. This defense, I know Trayvon Diggs isn't there now after the ACL, but man, like that is a horrendous performance. And Brock Purdy's been throwing with a lot of pass protection and with wide open receivers flying all over the place all year.
So wide open.
But it wasn't supposed to be like that this game. Like the Cowboys were supposed to be a top defense. They certainly were exposed in that sense as well.
I think one thing is because it's like, I get it, Dak Prescott, it's a Dallas Cowboys quarterback, is always going to be the centerpiece of these conversations about can he rise to the moment. It's like, I think what happens tonight a little bit is like, conversation over. What? Rise to what moment? When? Like, I mean, it's not a talking
Because of a
point.
Week 5 game? What do you mean? Like right now?
Because over and over, Dak Prescott in big moments has not. And not against this team. Like, really, like all these things boil down to like, the team you can't get past. Like when the Bulls couldn't get past the Detroit Pistons till finally they could. You know, it's like they can't get past the Niners, and instead of getting better or getting closer, you're getting farther away. It looks worse. Kellen Moore was your scapegoat coming out for last season. What was the plan tonight? They looked disorganized with no plan, no strategy, and no edge on a team that they cannot get past.
Right. We've done this long enough that I always feel that in Week 5, like you always allow for the room that these teams could be totally different by the time they do play in the playoffs, because we've just seen it so many different times. But everything you're saying is also true, and the reality is they're 2 games back of the Eagles. Like that's a very real thing in a conference where Cowboys fans are almost assuming, well, we're in the playoffs. Well, you're in the playoffs needing to win 3 road games in a conference with the 49ers and the Eagles, unless you make up those 2 games that you're already down against Philadelphia. I was surprised that the run game was so effective against this Dallas defense and that the receivers were so open. I think Trayvon Diggs is a big loss, but still, come on. I am really impressed with Purdy's ability. I think you saw it on the first and the third Kittle touchdown. It's hard to keep track, but how just he naturally moves away from the pressure, and it's just like a small little subtle thing, but it's like, okay, if there is a little pressure, it's like he's just going to back up 3 or 4 yards and go to the left, and then it makes the throw even easier, and by like an extra second or 2, he does have a very nice feel. He obviously has nice accuracy, and we watched the game with Daniel Jeremiah, who notes like, look, he's just driving a Ferrari, and he's good at driving it, but it is a Ferrari, and that's all true. They might have like 5 or 6 Hall of Famers on this team, but he's doing all the subtle things that you want to see that make you believe he can continue to do it all the way until Vegas.
Yeah.
He has been pretty much perfect as a starter.
Yes. I mean, he is the all-time safety net bailout for this team that whiffed on Trey Lance and then took Purdy with the last pick, and this is what you're getting. He's only
but wouldn't they be 4-1 with Trey Lance or Sam Darnold? They wouldn't be as good,
right?
But they'd we'd be winning games. They'd find a way.
We kind of said it right before we went on. Like it almost gets you like, maybe again this is like some have not type fan talking, but like, how do you mortgage your entire future to go up to number 3 and go get a quarterback? Whiff on that on an almost unimaginable level to the point where you lose all that draft capital and you end up trading the pick after 2 years of him doing nothing, and then be in this position where you are a super team. It makes you think, oh, what if they nailed that pick? Or what does that even mean? Maybe Mac Jones is doing the same thing that Brock Purdy is. But I feel like, and you'll like this point, Mark, because I know you agree with it, I feel like every time we have these conversations, it goes back to somehow kind of taking a little air out of Purdy's balloon to show how great the Niners are, where it's like, maybe this all just came together in like a beautiful happenstance, and now you have a perfect quarterback for this perfect team. And my last point, boys, before I throw it back to you, is I love a good unstoppable force versus a movable object. I grew up on Cowboys and Niners NFC tilts in the early 90s, and it was like you knew what the matchup was in September, barring some like crazy injury. I was hoping that the Cowboys might be the team that's in the mix as well.
Me too.
And I know it's early, Greg, but you just get the feeling that they're not at this level. Maybe the Lions are that team. Maybe there's another team that will rise up in the next 2 months. But 12-3.
Seahawks look pretty good.
Oh, but come on.
That's a different tier.
December 3rd, San Francisco at Philadelphia is the date to circle here, is the game of the year now. And I feel like the last weekend in January, NFC title game, we're going to see those teams again. If the Cowboys aren't that team, please give me one more. Let's get the NFC, get a little more juice in the NFC here.
I think it's a 2-team conference right now. I'm with you. A lot can change, and it's like you don't want to overreact, except this isn't an aberration for the Niners. They've been doing this for years. And in a way, like for the fact that they lucked out on Purdy, I would say that there were many seasons where quarterback injuries and injury chaos like took the Niners and Shanahan's teams out of it. And so it's like, there is you keep drafting quarterbacks, you keep developing, and we already trust that Shanahan can maximize. I'm with you. It's the last thing I'll say too is like this thing about Purdy where it's like we're kind of always looking around him as for why they're succeeding. It's like, I don't know what else you can ask a quarterback to do. I think it's because he's not like a physical specimen where he's not Anthony Richardson. He's not Cam Newton. It's like he looks a little bit kind of like a high school quarterback playing in the NFL to me. And yet it's not just Shanahan. Like he's making these throws. He's seen the field. He's calm on the field. Like his teammates totally love him. The coaches totally dig him. Daniel Jeremiah was telling us that he's known as this like hyper intense competitive quarterback in practice, in games. Like this is who he is. He fits what they're trying to do.
But it's why football's a really fun sport to cover because it's everything. It's all interconnected. You could say that on some level, we were talking about this too, that Debo and Ayuk they're not products of the system, but it's hard to evaluate how they would be outside of this system just because it all works so well together. The cornerbacks are all shading on the way that they cover Ayuk and Purdy and their eyes are all in the backfield because so much is going on before the snap because they have so much responsibilities with the running game, which is so dynamic what they do before the snap and how they run the ball, that offers Ayuk and Debo the chance to have these free releases and get one-on-one coverage that like other receivers wouldn't get, and it all works together. And then, oh, by the way, it works on the other side. You get Cleveland Farrell, a certified Trey Lance of the Raiders for 4 years, and like he shows up there, and because their defensive line is so loaded and that system's so friendly, like he turns into a really productive player. So it's
I'm really worried about the defensive line.
Right, it's a credit to all of them.
Or their fourth coordinator switch.
It's everything. It's freaking everything. It's awesome.
And just to give you a snapshot of how out of hand that game was, they cut to Jera's suite, and he doesn't even look like he's that bummed. It's almost like that whole suite for about an hour was already hour and a half was like, oh, okay, we know where we are now. And then you cut down to the sideline with 4 minutes to go, and John Lynch just handed out handshakes. Man, hey, how about a week? What do we got coming up? Week 6?
Yeah,
we are headed to London. Yes.
How about we get some nice like rockers in prime time this week?
You got the Giants on prime.
Let me use the parlance of where we're going. Let's get some corkers.
You got Giants Bills. Your hope is that that's a corker. Well,
we've got Broncos Chiefs.
Broncos Chiefs and Giants.
Okay, but
you know what? A corker.
You know
Sell
what?
it, Greg.
We got the London game. Ravens Titans on NFL Network. That one's gonna be good. We'll be there.
All right. Good stuff. Thank you to everybody for following along, as always. And we got another big week of action coming up both here in the States and then, yes, in England, our latest jaunt over the seas. Until Monday, heed the call.